everyone. Welcome to Spark to Embark panel discussion. And today we are here with mighty entrepreneurs who are willing to help you in order to start your journey. As you all know, our objective of Spark to Embark is to help you to ignite your hidden potentials so that you will be able to reach your pinnacle of success. So with this, we have already started our page where we launched it somewhere around August, where we were able to share entrepreneur stories, where it would have really impacted you already. And today is the pinnacle, I would say the peak of our first phase, where we have here live your favorite entrepreneurs, these mighty flames who are here to share their stories and how they started it, because they have already ignited their sparks many years ago and they have become mighty flames today, and they will continue to thrive their success in their journey. So without taking much time, let me introduce the panel to you. Today we have Mr. Sujit Cook, who is the founder of Health Alato, all natural ice cream, Professor Dr. Natalie Cook, who is the founder of Nature's Healing Ceylon Holistic Wellness Clinic. And next we have Mr. Balraj Arunasalam, who is the managing director of the Gem Trans Engineering Company. And we have Mr. Sarma Mahalingam, the founder of Crystal Water and Mycola Beverages. So, are you ready to listen to these success stories and embark your journey? So, on the outset, let me start with Mr. Cook. Tell us a little bit about your business and what ignited you to start your business.
To be honest, it was my wife's initiative because she had patients who didn't have a sugar-free product to consume while being on her diet.
Okay.
So we were looking for alternatives where they can consume as dessert because they can't consume any sugar at all. So we couldn't find anything. And then later on, she found out ingredient which is sweet but doesn't cause a sugar spike in the system.
Okay.
So in the body. So then we decided to make a common dessert which will suit for all, rather than making specific things like cakes or eclairs or something like that. We decided to make a common thing which is an ice cream, which anyone at large can consume it.
Okay.
So then we thought we should do this project, and it is a great success.
Okay.
I think you should ask my wife also for some.
Definitely, yes, we will come to her also because it says usually we all scream for ice cream, and it's ice cream is all about sugar.
Definitely.
So you mean to say your ice cream doesn't have sugar?
No.
Okay, right. So we will listen more and see how on earth can you make ice cream without sugar. So
And taste sweet.
And taste sweet also.
Yes.
Okay, so which I'm sure the doctors will not complain about diabetes in
Nothing.
the future. Oh,
Nothing.
okay, that's amazing. Yes, good. So, professor and doctor, and amazing. I mean, you already said in your story also that you launched your business while after having your firstborn, and that's amazing. Tell us a little bit about your clinic.
So it wasn't really planned.
Mhm.
I decided to come off an 8 to 5 job and night shifts and all of that. That was a decision I had to make after I had my first baby. So the clinic was something that just came up because I never wanted to stop working, and I love what I do.
Okay.
And so I just had to make a decision and just say, okay, let me have a more flexible schedule,
Okay.
which is how the clinic actually came into being.
Okay.
So it wasn't planned at all. No.
Okay. So tell us, like, what exactly do you do when you say wholeness, holistic?
To get them into a more natural diet and to get them into natural wellness, natural healing. So even if it is any form of disease, so my thing is your body can heal itself, but you need to give it the right environment.
Okay.
So if you're a diabetic, you can't be eating sugar and thinking that you're going to get better.
Okay.
So you need to know the do's and the don'ts,
Okay.
and then go towards a better part of healing, which is the clinic, which is what the clinic is all about.
Okay.
So I treat all diabetic, cancer patients, kidney failure, all of that.
Okay. Right. So we will get to know more about her clinic also. Next, we will move on to Mr. Arunasam Balraj. Tell us about your business and what really ignited you, or how have you been with your experience come up to this level? Share your
So I joined my family business 40 years ago.
story.
Some conventional lines, and I was thinking, what am I doing here? I'm not engaging my brain enough to earn money.
Okay.
And that's when I was looking for diversifications, and I went into this engineering company 25 years ago.
Okay.
I truly enjoy what I created and to become the market leader in what I do, right, in the conveyor belt industry, especially serving all the critical industries like food, pharmaceuticals, and
Oh,
every industry.
okay.
So that's what I do, and that's what I enjoy doing it.
Doing it.
So you can create, and we'll talk about it more about it.
Yes,
Yes,
definitely.
that
So
goes.
conveyor belts, yeah, something to think about. Yeah, and it's more essential. Every company, manufacturing industry will need it. So definitely, yeah, it's amazing. How about your story, Mr. Malinam? Tell us what ignited you to start it and your success story.
Yeah, my background is I've done my BCom and CIMA and MBA. I was also, like others said, that 8 to 5 job, was an accountant, then got an opportunity to go to Maldives.
Okay.
And all the time I found out that whatever I do was not enough under someone. It blocks my independence. I was looking for opportunities and through with my dream.
Okay.
So where I found in 1990s, early 90s, that there was a need of the hour for water to Maldives from outside.
Okay.
So that time only from Singapore and Malaysia, a lot of water were imported, and only one brand from Sri Lanka. So it was also not well packed and well presented. So it clicked me together. Why not we bring water from Sri Lanka to Maldives,
Okay.
and to make it as a venture.
Okay.
So that's how I had a dream and passion,
Okay.
and I found the opportunity and the market need. Then I worked from that point, and that's why I have grown.
Yeah, amazing story. I'm sure all of you may have seen his videos. He said, I'm a dreamer. So you mean to say from childhood days you have been dreaming, or was it when you were in Maldives that you started dreaming about water because it's so necessity? Is it from that time, or even small days you have been a dreamer to do something on your own?
Yeah, in fact, from small days, when I reflected and just think about my memories, well, my mother always said that I always go beyond what the limits are available there, and always sometimes she tried to give a pressure and say that don't do this, don't do that, don't think about it, we can't do this anymore.
Yes.
So I think every time I used to think something different and little bigger. So that flame and the fire and the dream would have been there with me throughout, to come up with something and to take the risk and do something.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the objectives of our project is also actually to get the youngsters, because the first phase I would say it's more to encourage the youngsters to think about business opportunities and not just to copy anybody else, but just to come up with their own talents, use your talents, and then come up with a new business proposal. So we have done a little questionnaire also. Before we come into those questions, I thought maybe shall we just try to connect our maybe childhood days, because that is also important. Maybe if you're watching, you might be thinking, okay, I'm not a very forward person, or I'm like very shy, backward, I always sit at the back, and if I'm a person like that, how can I start my own business? So maybe I'm sure the panel won't be, you would have been very active and some would have been very forward during school days, but then let's try to connect maybe your childhood days, and did it impact? Maybe talk about how the teachers saw you, and is there some connection to the business, or have you become a totally different person than your school days? What about you, Mr. Cook?
When you tell me about taking the back seat,
Okay.
actually it rang a bell on me at that time.
Okay.
When you have the back seat, it's a different view which others will not see, I think.
Yes.
When you're at the back seat, you can have a full view of what is happening till the front.
Front. Okay.
When you're in the front, I don't think you'll get to see
You
what's
can see,
happening at the
yes,
back.
true. Yes.
So I think that's a big eye-opener for me also now, since you know this.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So were you like very?
I am always at the back seat.
I'm always at the back seat. Okay. Right. But were you into sports or were you exposed into?
Yes, I was in. I used to play sports
Mhm.
in school. I used to play cricket,
Okay.
swimming, but I played cricket till the end of my school term in school, and then well, after that I used to do a little motorsports on and off, go-kart racing here and there.
Okay.
But I'm a motorsports enthusiast.
Okay.
Yeah.
So were you like a mischievous child in school?
I was very.
Okay.
Very.
Right. So we have a mischievous child. So
Yes.
yeah.
Always pulled up as a principal. As
Principal, and then
Yeah.
your parents had to always come and
They didn't have to come.
come.
But
You
it
somehow
is-
managed that.
managed that also.
Okay. That is how usually boys be naughty. How about you, Professor?
I was very naughty, yes, but
Okay, okay.
but also I had my phase where you would rather find me in a library than on a in a playground.
Okay.
But I think mainly, like, if you tell me that you can't do something, I would have to prove you wrong. Like, I have a problem. Like, if somebody says that you can't do it, I will find a way to somehow do it. So that's something I used to have since my childhood. So since I was a kid, I was an asthmatic. So they used to always say, since you are an asthmatic, you shouldn't do sports. You shouldn't do this. But I pushed myself to even get into the athletic team. So once I got in, I said, no, I'm leaving. I just needed to prove a point.
True, 4 points.
So that was just something I had. But no, I wasn't. I was naughty, but it's not like I was very, very mischievous. But still, yes, even I used to sit at the back of the class.
and watch everything
I was
what's
never the front line person. No.
So it's like if somebody challenges you, you will always prove them wrong.
I don't like to take the word no. I don't like to hear the word no. I don't like people saying the word no either. I always like to find a way around it. That has always been my personality. I think that's why that actually helped me even in life. Because from mainstream medicine, for me to actually move into nutritional medicine, it was a big change for me. But I had to prove it to myself that holistic medicine also needs to come up in society. So that was I think that's how my childhood came into what I do now.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Good. Mr. Baraj, how about you?
Yeah, in contrary, I was a good balanced kid at school. Sometimes sit in the front, sometimes sit in the middle. And I did every sport that I could do, but I never excelled in any.
Right.
And my mother was drawing one side to make me a doctor or an engineer, and my father was dragging me and said, no, he's a businessman, you must come and take over my business. So I was just caught in between these two people. Finally I did some studies relating to business, right? And then I was forced to come into business at a young age, and I was not a great speaker or anything. I was good in my studies, but I was a shy boy.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
To tell you the fact, I was a shy boy. I can't get up and speak in front of people. But when I joined my business, when I realized this shyness has to get out of me, and if that doesn't get out, I cannot grow from here. And that's when I decided to go through that formal training to get my shyness out so that I'm able to converse with people, because my father knew every industrialist in the country in the good olden days in late 60s and early 70s. So to keep up to them and to even have a conversation with them, this shyness business had to get out of me. And that's how I got into the business. And then wanted to create all the time. And then just keep improving, and I'll come back to with your next question of how youngsters can benefit.
Wow, wonderful. And I'm sure most of you will not believe that he was a shy child because all what he has done, and I'm sure all of you know about his credentials in Toastmasters. In that, it's all about speaking and leadership, and it's amazing. And very interestingly, you said, I didn't want to do business, I only wanted to go to the playground and spend my father's money. And then here you are today, a successful businessman. Amazing. So that is what your hidden potential definitely can do into your life. Yes, how about you, Mr. Malingam? Because you said you're being a very reserved child, but tell us, is it really true?
Yeah, because my background is father was a teacher, mother is a homemaker. And we are from background from Jaffna, no sports, everybody has to study. So I am an average student. So when all my siblings sit and study and all, I had no choice than studying with them. So somehow the average got through, but because I am a small male and a tiny child in the class, average height and very low. So I always try to sit behind because I don't want to mix with people because I'm weak on that physical capability. So I always compromise with people and be friendly mostly because if somebody hit me, then I'm done. So I'm always very careful about it. Since my father was a teacher, they always keep me in the front because this father's teacher's son. But I made sure that with the hard work and the surroundings of studying made me to become a graduate and be postgraduate. And that, as I mentioned earlier, my dream was there. So I want to do something different. So, and here I am with after many years of this business experience.
Oh, amazing. Amazing stories. I'm sure it would have really impacted you because why I raised that question is mainly because sometimes we feel like, sometimes our school days teachers would have seen, okay, maybe because in local schools you have about 40 children in the class, not like international schools. And it's very difficult even for teachers to give individual attention to students. So maybe the backbenchers would have thought, okay, I will not do well in life, okay, let me just do whatever the studies and go. But it's a good eye-opener even for the teachers also, where the children definitely, when they grow up, definitely they can become good entrepreneurs and influential people. So it's up to both parties, for teachers and also for you as a child. If you're a shy person or even mischievous like them, even one of them, or shy or backward backbenchers, definitely there's something, you have that hidden potentials inside you. So that's why we are having this discussion also, and then see where you can fit in. And if they can do it, definitely you also can do it. So with that, maybe let's try to connect it to our business also. So tell me, like, when you had this business idea, how did you initially get about it? What are, maybe just tell us about one or two, three steps, how you started it, just to start with the steps in the book.
So we actually researched the whole ingredient process for about a year, and then once we got the mix right, we didn't want to invest on a factory or something in that sense. So we tried to contract manufacture with about 2 people, which didn't work because basically they want the ingredients.
Okay.
So I said, no way, this is not working. Then I listed down the things what I need to purchase to set up a factory. I looked at the budget, it seemed alright. Then basically my wife didn't comment or tell me to do it or not do it. She was very quiet. I thought done with contract manufacturing. I'm deciding to invest on this, and I purchased all the machines and I got it down.
Okay.
Yeah. So then with that we started manufacturing.
So you just took that risk, I would say, to purchase all the.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I know the option. I'll lose my recipe. So I'd rather take this risk and do this.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I mean, great of you to think of at least something like that. So if you're scared, if you're nervous, thinking, okay, how am I going to do it? So we have a good example, definitely. How about you, Professor?
I am very different to him.
Okay.
So he would take the risk, but I am very, very cautious when it comes to finances and money. Maybe because it's not my topic and I don't know much about it.
Okay.
So when I had to start off and I decided to start the clinic, I didn't have any patients. So I didn't know whether will actually somebody pay and come to see me? You know? So when I started at my mother's dining table. And I just sent the message around, okay, I started seeing patients. If you have anybody with these diseases, I'm here to help. And it was a absolute miracle the way everything turned around. And within just a year or 1.5 years, I made up my mind to rent out a place, put up a proper clinic, and go, full on the project. So by that time, I had enough patients behind my name, and I had enough testimonials. So I didn't even have to market it. It was all word of mouth. So then I think there was basically no risk I was taking because I already had enough patients. So yeah, it was very different to his story. I don't think I would have put up a clinic just as I decided to start it. So from my mom's place, I started renting out a room in the front portion of the house. I mean, it wasn't really rent, it was my parents' house. So it was, again, no risk. Then from there on, I decided, okay, maybe I need to move on a bit more and I need to get a bigger place.
Okay.
So mine was in stages,
Okay.
in complete stages.
Stage by stage. If you feel that you have to always take a risk, okay, you can. Now you heard what the professor said. So maybe take a different stage, rather than not a risk really. Unlike what Mr. Sujit Gupta. Yes. What about you? Tell us maybe because you took over your father's business. How was it like? From there onwards, how did you move forward?
So I took over my father's business and I was running that company because when I took over, it was already 30 years old. So I then started developing and did things to strengthen that business, but I was not enjoying it. It's when I decided to diversify, and what I diversified was completely in contrast to what we were doing. And what I thought right was to innovate all the time and see what can I innovate, what can I think creatively and think critically to serve the industry rather than just some traders. And that's when I got into this business in 1995.
Okay.
First few months in that business, I just a couple of $100, and my father was thinking, what happened to this fellow? Whether this fellow will ever make a living out of this business? Is he in the right business?
Yeah.
And he was very worried. Before he passed away, he told my mom, I'm not sure when he had a lucrative business, I don't know what he wants to do with this. But I was persistent. Okay. And sorry to miss my father now, who would have really been happy.
Yeah.
And but he encouraged me, he never stopped me.
Oh,
He
that's
said,
amazing.
do what you like, but be careful.
Mhm.
It's because that careful word is all synonymous with our parents' generation.
Yes.
And then my success is only because I kept on innovating things. 5 years I was lingering to invest seriously like Mr. Kirk. And then I took a bold risk with only very little turnover to get down my machines. Otherwise I couldn't have succeeded. Right? Because to serve the industry you needed the machines.
Yeah.
Otherwise you couldn't. So what I thought to do was, what can I improve? Right? Innovating is one thing, but what are you improving?
Yeah.
Right? Are you improving a process? Are you improving the manufacturing system? Are you improving quality of life of people? Are you making it easy? So that's what I was concentrating on. And to improve further the industrialist in this country, with lead times, I needed machines. That's when I took the biggest risk. And then imported the machines and kept on improving the process. And the last thing that I did before I really embarked upon, that spark to embark was there, whether to gather as much as information possible to ascertain yourself to see whether you're doing the right thing. But your information bank says you need to take the risk, go ahead. If you have not gathered sufficient information in what you want to innovate, then you're taking a bigger risk.
Yes.
So that's what I did.
Oh,
So my advice to any young entrepreneurs is keep innovating, gather information as possible, as much as possible before you embark on that improvement process. When you are ready to improve, take any amount of risk, you will succeed.
definitely. So that's, if you're listening, definitely you could be a person who has started your own business and you're in the transition of giving it to your maybe your children. And if you're nervous, definitely you heard what Mr. Balraj said. So there's a lot to learn from us, and then how to take a risk, how to improving the process, or what exactly that you want to do is amazing. So Mr. Mahan,
3 eyes.
3 eyes. Okay. Yes.
You don't have not for to be a successful in business. 2 eyes is not enough.
Not enough. So there you got your answers, definitely. Just keep on connecting. Definitely we will ask more questions. How about you, Mr. Mani? What steps did you take?
Yeah, I think I'm totally different from their risk, but
Okay.
they have taken. Of course, it's good to hear that. But because I'm coming from a background where teachers and temple priests,
Okay.
so there is no, even in fact, when I was the second week of my university entrance, my father asked me when I came out of the house, what do you want to be in your life? So since I was doing commerce and did A-level in commerce and I got selected for BCom degree, I just said I want to be a businessman. And he said, this is not our cup of tea. I want you to be a teacher. I only work for 180 days, other days all holiday. So just you can give some tuition and be comfortable, be happy, then just take any risk. So I just didn't answer anything for that. In fact, then I got educated and was an accountant in Sri Lanka for a cement factory. Then I went to Maldives as a financial controller for a resort. There I thought it's not, whatever I wanted to do, it's not matching what I was doing there. Then I thought I should do something different which may keep me happy. So then I saw there was an opportunity, and always I used to think that I have to do something different and to make me happy and to live in my dreams. So I got an opportunity to, there is a water requirement. So when I came back, and the biggest risk is to the finance. So I was going around all the banks, nothing happened. So I straight away went to the owner of the resort where I was working, and he was humble enough to invest. And we started with his investment and my entrepreneurial skills, and we built it up from there. But the message is that you can be educated, you can be coming from a different background of family where nobody was doing business, but still, if you have your dreams and passion, and if you want to do something different, you want to be independent and very happy, take a risk. And if you are faithful, and if you are a hard worker, you are there. You see us, what we have done. You will also one day will be like one of us.
I think catchy words where he has always taken the opportunity, looked for the opportunity, and definitely even if you don't have entrepreneurs in your family, still you can go forward and you can definitely be that successful entrepreneur. So that's the what you call the message that we got, and some of them also taking risk, for some just going stage by stage. So with that, we will now move into a few questions which we have received from our community. So I'm sure most of you would have during the past few weeks, maybe our action team would have really pushed you, asking you to maybe fill up these questionnaires, because we really wanted some questions to give our panel in order to help you out, because some of you are still undergraduate, some of you are working and yet not sure whether you want to do full-time business or get into a own business. So taking all these into the questions, what I felt was most of the questions are based on they're a bit nervous about when it comes to finances. So taking into compiling the questionnaires, I thought maybe let us break the finances into like 3 stages. So maybe we can just allocate it among the panel. Maybe in a business startup, how are we going to manage the finances, and when we are growing or when we have to manage or sustain the business, how to manage, maybe 1 or 2 little tips. And maybe after, if we are thinking about a growth or expansion, how best are we going to find finances and things like that. So I thought we'll give it to the couple, Mr. and Mrs. Cook, about the startup, and if Mr. Malingam can touch on ongoing, what are little tips that they can think about, and when it comes to expansion, taking the father's business into another level, maybe when you are thinking about growth and expansion, maybe Mr. Balraj can help that. So what about you, Mr. and Mrs. Cook? Tell us, in the initial stage, what are some of the tips that you can give our audience who are watching?
So basically, if it's a manufacturing factory which you all want to start, then it's all about machines, buildings, and other equipment. So you have to cost it down, you have to budget it, you have to have a list of the investment costs. On top of that, you need to have your working capital also. At least 6 months working capital is needed.
6 months. Okay.
Yes, at least. Because sometimes payments also get delayed when you supply to people. So then that's the most important part. Then you should have some additional, say, 20% excess cash you must have in case the costs vary, plus and minus, 10% can vary. So better have a 20% more when you start. So that will actually help with the start for the moment, because we have to buy raw materials. At the beginning, they won't give credit, they will ask for cash. So until you perform for about 3 to 6 months, you have to keep paying cash. And the main thing is maintain low inventory. You have to maintain low inventory and try to sell as much as possible and manufacture like almost hand to mouth basis. That will save your money on working capital, but it's good for you. At least it will keep the cycle, the wheel turning.
Real time.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good tip. I'm sure your question would have been answered with that. That is about a basic startup. What are the requirements that you need to have? So if you are moving ahead, once we have established the business, what are some tips you can give us, Mr.
When you are coming up, mostly you will find a lot of challenge that you should not be worried about, or you should not be stressed out of it. But when I started with this Crystal brand water, major problem was the quality assurance. So we started to export, and because of this tropical country, and it went on the 20-foot containers, and they were very hot on board. And by the time it reached the destination, it's full of particles. So we didn't know that technology that time, how to sort out this. But you have to reach out people. So that time we immediately reached out IDB, Industrial Development Board, and they voluntarily helped us for us to go and get a training in Scotland at Highland Spring bottle manufacturing plant. And we managed to get the training with the help of the government. So there are people out to help a lot of SLSA and government department like IDB. Then you have health ministry for this type of food item to support. So you have to reach out whenever there is a problem and find proper people, proper advice, and you have to go with whatever you need to get their advice. So those challenges you will face when you grow up, and of course, as Mr. Cook said, that financial issues is a major crisis which we were to look into that. So I said that whatever challenges may be, but keep your faith and the hard work, and only look forward and move forward.
Okay, yeah. Look forward and move forward. That's the tip. What about Mr. Balraj? What can you say if you are going to expand?
Today I envy the young entrepreneurs to be,
Okay.
because I was when I was growing up, we were 2 sons and 3 daughters. I don't think in those days we concentrated on our daughters to become entrepreneurs, right? So now when I see your people and the audience that you are handling,
Yes.
it's 50 to 60% of them are girls who are wanting to become entrepreneurs. That's very encouraging factor,
Yes.
right? So that's a very encouraging factor. Sometimes, yes, Dr. Natalie turned into a full-time entrepreneur now,
Yes.
right? So same with me. My daughter is a doctor who's now turning into be a full-time entrepreneur.
Oh, wow.
So you never know what hidden skills you have. Although I did not force them to do engineering or to become a lawyer or a doctor, which all they became. But they must do what they like. But today's young entrepreneurs have a great deal of platform available. Today there are people willing to invest huge amounts of money in good ideas. What do you want to do? And then find the right investor or go to startups. There is a place called Hatch in Colombo, right? Jeevan Jnanam is running that. You go there, they're all innovators, all young, 22, 23, 25, wanting to become entrepreneurs. So your audience should look at those avenues to create the finances that you need.
Yes.
But ultimately, patience is absolutely important. What I see from your panel is they're in a hurry to make money. Right? You can't make it. You have to have the patience. And if you have the patience and persistence and the passion, you can rock the world. So when you want to grow to the next level, look for venture capital, look for ideas to be investors on your ideas, and carefully manage. Don't put all your eggs in one basket and die. Right? Financial independence and financial freedom is absolutely important in whatever you do. You can't risk your entire life into one small business and then starts frustration. Then you start to, there are a lot of other social issues come with that. So carefully managing that, growing parallelly, and always try to share profits. Share profits. If your idea is good, you don't have money, be willing to share profits and grow. That is how the world is operating. When Apple and Microsoft can come together, the biggest investor when Apple was was in trouble, was Bill Gates, a direct competitor, and Apple bounced back. So like that, there are very many avenues today to grow in business.
Thank you very much, sir. I think you wouldn't have thought that patience is a key when you're expanding. So definitely, I'm sure your question, because of that, you would have really benefited hearing the answers from these experts. Okay, so with that, again, we can just move into if I just break it down, they have wanting some help with regard to business ideas, market space, strategic directions and things like that. So in what area, maybe because of time, we have limited time and so many questions to ask also. When it comes to, we say, some of what I felt was these audience, youngsters and even the working crowd, they are not really focused. When we ask the question, have you identified any talents or hidden potentials, some of them have said, no, I need to develop myself, I don't have self-confidence. So they're lacking that area. So maybe just to help them in a very few words, if you can help them with some business idea, how to maybe come up with one or two. And then if Mr. Mahalingam can touch on market space, how to create market space, because you said when you entered there was another brand. So how to maybe penetrate into market, and then Mr. Baraj, if you can again tackle about strategic directions, maybe one or two tips on how to do that. Would you like to start?
Yes.
Business ideas, maybe one or two few examples how they can, maybe they must be having a full-time job, but maybe they want to do something. What are few tips?
Basically, you should know what you like to do. Say if you like to bake a cake and sell, that is one. Or if you want to trade tea, you can sell tea. Or any business. Anything that you like to do, you have to try it out and see in a small scale.
Okay.
It can be something very small. It can be a shirt button even if you have to buy it from somewhere and give it to supply to some garment factory. But still you have to start something small and start as soon as possible as when you like it. So that it will give you a little confidence that yeah, it's moving and it's the wheel is turning. So basically, your sales will increase and gradually you will have to expand. So at that time, without you knowing itself, you have already done it. So you have to start with something you like. So from there, things will improve.
Okay.
But if it doesn't, you can try an alternative option as well.
Well,
Basically, you once you start on one, you should have a plan B, C, and D.
okay.
So if one doesn't work, after starting one, you must have 2-3 options, so that at least one of the 4 will work.
So anything to add to that?
My thing is, I think you always need to find the need. There has to be a need for whatever you're providing. And now see the ice cream also, like patients kept requesting for it. Can is there something like this? Can you do something like this? You know, and because we always eat sugar free anyway.
Yeah.
So what do you make at home? Can you help us? No, we can't be making it. Can you make it and give us? So when those questions kept coming, then we actually saw the need that there is a requirement for something like this. So I believe that is very important. And then came the recipe. So you have to have somewhat of knowledge in whatever it is you're trying to do. If you don't know anything about it, I really don't think you should be putting your hands into it until you learn something about whatever it is you plan on doing. So the recipe was key. Then came to the legal matters. We patented our recipe. Then came to getting different types of legal matters sorted out, right? Even for the factory and all of that. So you need to go through a process. And even the question you asked before about the finances, I don't come from a financial background.
Okay.
So coming from a medical background, I went in to do business, which I had no clue about. I didn't even do commerce for my O levels. So I had no knowledge. So when he said, you know what, let's do this, it was too large for me even to, you know, he comes from a finance business background. So it was easy for him. Any product, you take it and you put your numbers together, all of that, and he was doing something, and I was clueless, right? All I had was a recipe. I didn't know what to do with it. So I was lucky enough to have him, yes. But I think you need to, if you don't know something, you need to have that humility to go and ask someone, can you teach me how to do this, or can you help me? Sometimes you can have the money, you can have the initial product or whatever, but you may not know how to work it out, which is also important. So that was something I didn't have. So I had to rely on somebody else until I start. I'm not saying I know everything now, but until I started learning a little bit of whatever I was doing, I had even taking inventories. Other than taking medical instrument inventories, I didn't know what it was. So I had to learn from scratch. But I was willing to learn. I guess that was also a difference. I wanted this so bad because I saw how people enjoyed the ice cream. They wanted us to send it out to supermarkets and places where it was freely available. So for us to get to that stage, I had to move out of my comfort zone. So I can't sit on my chair and just think that things are going to happen. I had to learn, I had to do things. So that also, I think, for young entrepreneurs, that is very important because it may not be your field.
Yeah.
It may not, you don't have to have a finance degree. I don't even plan on getting one.
Okay.
You know, but you need to know your money.
Yeah.
So for that, you need to learn things. So whatever, even marketing, branding, I don't know any of it. But I had to learn on the go. And if I didn't do it right, my product is not going to succeed anyway. So I think you need to have an open heart to learn. You need to find the need and supply that, not just see what somebody else is doing and try to do the same thing. I don't think it's ever going to work. You need, they're not doing it right and you think you can do it better, that's a different story. But you need to give something out to a person that would help them in some way.
Okay.
So I think that's the best way to find a business idea.
So willing to learn and then do something that you enjoy, have few plans. So that's about business idea. How about you, Usmani? When we come to a market space, what are the few tips that you can give?
Yeah, generally the people start, I think 46% of these entrepreneurs are from their experience, they shifted from their working place and they start a business when there's a downfall of the organization or downfall of the economy. That's why it's a general trend. So whatever it may be. So if you take my case, that there was a need of water requirement in Moreland, so we started. But that time there was no one knows about bottled water in Sri Lanka unless you see in the supermarket this Perrier and Vital brand. It was very expensive. So whenever we go and ask why don't you buy, and they were very clueless. Why do you want to take a bottled water where our tap water is really good, and as well as in the rural area you get very good well water, that well water. But at the time there was a gap in the market locally to cater this. Then only we thought of an idea what we can do locally is why not we come out with beverage, a carbonated beverage, because that time only 3 players were there. So we took put a company to do a research and let us know what is the gap in the market for this beverage. So unfortunately they said market is saturated, there is no market gap there. But what I thought was that, okay, let's take a risk, go with that product but with a different format. So first we came out with the smallest PET plastic bottle before anyone. So for that time there was a 1.5 liter, 1500 milliliter mega bottle was there in the market, but there is no small plastic bottle. So we came up with the small plastic one way. Convenience is our key. So we entered the market with that. So that is what, even though there is a Me Too product in the market, if you can differentiate from others and find out the gaps in the market, you can always play. We are strong in outstation, not in the Western or Greater Colombo area, because this Greater Colombo area all competed by these high time multinational and Sri Lankan oil companies. So we are very comfortable with outstation. So where the people are not so much conscious about the brand, but they want a good product with a reasonable price. That's how you can find whatever the market, be different, differentiate the product and see where you can fill in.
The biggest obstacles is when you don't know your cost of operation. We tend to overspend or underspend and we don't have the right balance because we have not planned the strategic direction in what we want to do. And being in the right environment destroys you completely when you are making these wrong decisions, and I have made them. I have over-invested in products, I have underutilized capacities. All these obstacles will come and cost of operations will phenomenally go up and ruin you. So those are the 3 obstacles that you have to be very mindful if you want to succeed.
Okay, that's amazing. So, Mr. Malingam, would you like to add your experiences, maybe few obstacles that you faced?
Obstacles, as I said, that quality was an issue when we came up with the water. Then we reach out people who know the subject, technical, from universities to authorities in the government. So there are people to help you. So that was one thing you keep in mind, reach out people. Second thing is that when we started the beverage, we have been taken to courts because by a competitor saying that we are similar to their product and similar to their bottle size, shape and all. But as I said, that look forward, move forward. We also challenged that and we managed to sort that out amicably, and we never stopped marketing our product in the market against the competitors.
Okay.
And at times we had one of the serious issue during, I think about 7 years ago. One of the individual in Polonnaruwa consumed our bottle of carbonated drink and on the spot died. So it was shocking. Then the whole thing, factory was sealed, and we have been called in the police in Polonnaruwa. Then later we found out that the husband wanted to kill the wife, and he had bought the bottle and managed to poison inside, and it has happened like that. So there are challenges throughout. You will never know what will happen, where you will face. But all you say that you have done good things, you are doing good things, and always look forward and take the challenge and face it. So every challenge is a stepping stone for your success and for your strength. So now, if you ask, after so many years' experience, whatever comes against you as a challenge, I always laugh at them.
Okay.
come, let me face it
Okay.
and come out with it. Then you become better person in the society.
Oh, that's amazing advice. How about you?
Well, the biggest obstacle I have is maintaining the best quality and also trying to keep the price affordable to people.
Okay.
We want to make it affordable to all and to the mass market, but due to high cost of good quality raw material doesn't allow me to do it. But we are trying to work on it. We're trying to work on it to keep the same quality, same suppliers, same material, but somehow try to bring the cost of production down. That's the main key to expand and to penetrate into the market. Yeah.
I think for us, like when we started, as we said, we wanted to contract manufacture. Then that didn't work out, so we had to get a plan B. Then we had to look at investing. Then he knew that it was very hard for me to get to that topic. And then, but still, we had to figure out, okay, the lowest investment, but the best product out. And then, so we started it ourselves. So we were the manufacturers, we were the delivery people. He and I used to drive. I was pregnant with my second son, and we used to drive to deliver it to our customers. And we maintained a very personal relationship. And then COVID struck. So and then it's so many things. But the timing was always right. I think that was a good thing for us because we launched. Now we were working on our recipe and all for about 2 years, but then we launched beginning of March this year. When that happened, the reason why we launched, we were not even ready. But I was 33 weeks pregnant. I wanted to launch before the baby, right? So that's the only reason we launched. But that was perfect because if we didn't do that, COVID would have come and we would have never started. So then COVID came as we launched. We've not even got through to anybody, and we had to find a way of getting our stocks out, selling our products, getting to the market, because you can't launch in March and then sell your products next year.
Yeah.
So we had to work it out, and there were times that we used to even make it fun. We used to take our newborn baby with our toddler at the back and still go to the ice cream. So we were like the family of ice cream.
So many challenges, definitely. I think because of the time we didn't have that much of time to spend. And definitely, when it comes to obstacles, you would have a lot of drama, so much of stories to share. And definitely, I think we can take it to another phase. Even definitely, if you're interested, definitely connect with us because we have an email address also. You can always write to us spark2embark2020@gmail.com. And definitely, this panel will be willing to help you also, so you can just connect with us. And if you're a bank or a finance institute where you want to help the medium and small scale industries, definitely you can write to us and we can see how we can take it to a different level. So before we wind up, maybe in a nutshell, I thought maybe Doctor, would you like to ask, even we have these experts in the industry, for you all, any question that you want to ask, or maybe from each other? We have only maybe about 2 or 3 minutes more.
I do actually. Mr. Balraj, since your business is, it has gone through generations, from your father running the company to you running the company, and maintaining the father-son relationship in that transition.
It's not always easy, right? Because old school thinking was the new school thinking. I'm seeing that now in my daughter.
Right.
She says, I have done this business for 40 years, and now she says, you don't know anything. Right? So, a lot of give and take. Because you must respect the individual whom you are dealing with for the talent and for the information that they have in this handheld device today. Right? So, if you don't respect them, transitions will never work. My father empowered me to an extent that nobody in this country would have done. Right? He was willing to take a risk and give me an open power of attorney when I was 20 years old, and spent that money to empower me. So transitions are tough. After I really became an entrepreneur, then it's even more tougher. Right? So because so people and process. So I had to manage not only my dad, I had to manage people who were 30 years in the company already. And I was born after they joining my company, of my father's company. So for them, I was a kid still. and now here you are their boss. So very tough. And so these transitions are very have to be very carefully managed because it will hurt the company. There are
Yes.
conglomerates, there are empires in this country which have crashed because of these transitions. Right? I know a couple of them. And some of them are going through tough times even as we speak because of transitions. Right? So it's people, process, respect.
Definitely. Yeah, so a lot to talk about, a lot to learn from these mighty giants, but time is the factor where we are out of time. We always have this spark, but we are out of time. So borrowed words from a great proverb. So with that, I think with the time, we have to conclude our panel discussions. So let me thank Mr. Sujit Cook and Professor Natalie Cook for taking time from your valuable time and giving us and answering all the questions for the audience, and Mr. Balraj. I think you're really busy, but somehow you managed to accommodate this schedule, and thank you so much for being here. Mr. Mahalingam, the same, business person, time is valuable, time is money, but you spent it and you just gave your time for all of us. Really.
And on behalf of the panel, congratulations to you, Hiroshi, for
Thank you
putting
so
this
much.
together
Yes.
in a time like this when youngsters are really finding it, people are losing jobs and people are directionless, and at a time like this to keep this going. Wish you all the best in this area.
Thank you so much, sir. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, and whoever you are watching, definitely we will continue, and they are always willing to help. So write to us. Remember the email address spark2embark2020@gmail.com. So I also want to thank the RTV, the technical team, and for helping us, and also remembering my guidance committee and the action team for all the hard work, the support they give us with this project. And with that, let us say all goodbye to all of you along with the panel. So stay safe and good night. See you soon.